the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I am the publisher, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield. It is Wednesday, August 16th. The playoffs are here. Oh, the playoffs! Whoa! Are you ready, Josh?
I'm ready. It's going to be good.
I'm ready. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe I'm excited about end of season, right? I'm excited about the slate of tournaments coming up. I'm excited about the raising payouts that typically come at this time of year as well. Like, you know, we talked about it on Tuesday. Player of the year race on the MPO side is the door is open, and these next couple events are going to be critical in determining where kind of season standings shake out. We're also watching Kristen and looking for her calendar Grand Slam. Like, there's a lot of storylines going into this end of the season that are going to be very, very exciting to watch.
Yes, the majors. Yeah, but the Disc Golf Pro Tour playoffs begin this weekend at the Great Lakes Open. 4 rounds starting tomorrow. We will break down all things DGLO in a little bit. But first, I just want to talk about what the playoff structure is, what the end of the season looks like for the Pro Tour. Because if you're like me, you forgot a lot of this stuff and you don't totally remember what's going on. So we're gonna make sure you know exactly how it's all going to go right now. So, how do you get into DGLO? Because it is a playoff event. There is no open registration for this tournament. All tour card holders had the opportunity to register a couple months ago. After the Portland Open, players in the top 80 in MPO or top 40 in FPO in the standings were opened up to registration. And then after Ledgestone, the top 96 in the standings for MPO and 48 for FPO were offered the opportunity to register. So that's where it is. There's a couple exemptions here and there. There's a couple people in who you're like, how did they get in? And it's like not totally clear. But for instance, Manabu Kajiyama from Japan, who's come over for Worlds, is going to be playing this weekend. He was given an exemption, which that makes total sense, right? He's the highest rated player in the world, Josh. You got to let him in.
Got to. But the biggest point there being, like, you're not going to see randoms from Michigan whose names you just don't know entering in this event, right? Like, that's what really feels like the biggest objective of the registration system.
I got to be honest, I'm not totally sure what the objective is here. In my opinion, like, if you're going to have a playoffs and you want to start to whittle the field, let's actually whittle the field.
Mm-hmm.
Because as it stands here, there's 75 players registered in MPO and 36 in FPO. So the field sizes are smaller for sure. So there's going to be less money in the pot for the purse as a result. You know, normally these events are 125, even 140 players. And here it's 75 for MPO. So you're limiting the size of the field by kind of cutting out the bottom group of people who sign up and get crushed, you know, which does it matter at all to fans whether those people play or they don't play? I mean, to me, it makes no difference whatsoever. And there's no sense that this is actually a playoff because all of the relevant players are in this tournament. Like, why do tour card holders get automatically included? I thought this was a playoff. Like, that's like 80 people from last year or something, right? I forget what the numbers are, but like, there's nobody not playing at this tournament that you're like, oh, wow, they didn't get in.
You know, they've actually created the worst of both worlds, where they've cut out the bottom of the base who usually provides you with payout money, but never takes any of it home.
Right.
But didn't limit it enough to make it intriguing, right? That's the argument. Whenever someone says, oh, you should limit Pro Tour events to only tour card holders and some exceptions, right? The answer is always, well, purses go away if you do that. And you lose a large percentage of the purses because that money is paid by players who never cash. They they have somehow managed to do the worst of both worlds, where they cut the bottom out of the payout structure and didn't actually make it interesting. Here's my biggest gripe with this. There are ways that you can make this playoff intriguing, right? If you were to cut it down and meaningfully start to whittle the field down.
And you don't have to go crazy. You just need to cut
Right.
it at more than where they're cutting it.
Right. And like that is one way you could do it. But if you're not going to do it that way, why not just have these events be Elite Plus events? Right? Like, I felt like you have a perfectly good designation in Elite Plus. You have increased standards and criteria for media payouts that made Portland and Ledgestone both a very important event. You have the points on the Pro Tour structure that make it and emphasize it. So just back end 2 Elite Plus events in the playoff slots, and you have a perfectly good designation that doesn't require us to pretend like playoffs exist in this format. Like, that's the weirdest part to me, is they've made a good decision with Elite Plus, and I think I actually made fun of Elite Plus when it first came out, because there was the Elite Plus and the playoffs. But now that like it's been happening, I much prefer the Elite Plus designation and think it's a much cleaner and much more effective designation that we should have just used for DGLO and for MVP.
Yeah, because I feel like my sense is that the Pro Tour wants to have real playoffs, that they want to actually like trim the field, but players are like, no, I want to play an MVP, and I'm 50th in the standings. And it's like, okay, well, then play better. I mean, the thing is, the Pro Tour Championship does have that intrigue. It does have that cutoff. It does have that question about, are you going to be in or out? And these other events just don't get there. They just don't cut harshly enough to make it interesting. So just for the notes, MVP, all tour card holders can register. It's top 48 MPO 24 FPO after preserve, and then it's top 72 MPO, top 36 FPO after DGLO. Again, that is not a meaningful cutoff line. Like, okay, the players who do not play on the tour can't register, but anybody who tours gets to register. So it's not a real playoff, right? That's the thing that sort of annoys me about this. And so I'm with you. I don't know what it would be fine to just offer more points at these tournaments to make them feel important, as they would, because players are going to be trying to get into the Tour Championship. But, I would like to see the line be, maybe make it top 48 MPO, because then you're cutting to 32 at the Tour Championship. I mean, that's pretty aggressive, but something to make it feel like it actually binds.
If you go top 48 right now, just looking at standings, the likes of Gavin Babcock, Greg Barsby, Gavin Rathbun, Jeremy Coling, Luke Humphreys, Drew Gibson, Casey White, Austin Hannum, Tristan Turner, Nate Sexton.
But keep in mind, right, all those names you're reading, they have an opportunity to play in this weekend with a good performance.
Yes.
And it would be very interesting to follow that as a storyline. And instead, it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
You know what? They can fix it next year. This was dumb last year. It's still dumb. It is what it is. But it is. They are still really important tournaments when it comes to getting points towards the Tour Championship. They also have big added cash, minimum added cash $60,000 at DGLO and $65,000 at MVP. Nate Heinold, the TD of DGLO, has said they are expecting to sell over $100,000 in spectator tickets for this weekend. Think about that.
Wow.
That is monster. I mean, that is just massive. I mean, like Worlds in Utah did numbers like that, and I don't think I've heard of a tournament come close to that since then.
That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
Let's see. I want to see what ticket prices are looking like. So a VIP badge for the entire event with the special badge and spectator pack gets you $100, which includes snacks and food at the VIP area. That also has, the pack has the limited edition disc, a tournament shirt, a water bottle, and additional items. Okay. weekly pass is $70, and that includes a t-shirt and a shirt or a disc. And then daily admission is $20 per day.
There's also Elite VIP.
Oh yes, I missed that one.
That one's sold out. That's got like meet and greet and stuff.
Yeah.
2 Elite VIP winners will receive an exclusive 9-hole practice round with Paul Ulibarri. Okay. $20. I mean, to me, these prices are very sensible. I mean, $20 feels like a totally reasonable price.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'm surprised they don't change the price for the weekend, but they kept it flat 20 all rounds. I think it makes more sense to have it be like 10, 15, 20, 25 or something like that.
Here's something that's interesting for you, Charlie. When I went to select, like, get a pass, it takes me to disc golf scene to select my pass rather than Eventbrite or whatever other program they've used in the past.
Well, I'm on the Eventbrite right now.
You're on Eventbrite. Yeah. I'm on disc golf scene.
I guess you can go either way.
Interesting. I've never noticed that before. I don't know if that's been a thing. It's where it took me, and I didn't know I could do that.
Interesting.
So it's showing, at least through disc golf scene, it's showing 972 people registered.
Okay, so almost 1,000 spectator tickets sold
through this one, yeah. And that's, I would assume you've got. And here's what's interesting is you can actually see what passes were purchased.
Right.
So we said the VIP's $100. They have sold all 435 VIP spots. So there's 43,000.
Yep. How about, do they have the elite VIPs in there?
Let's take a look.
Those might be included in that same count potentially.
Yes, there are. Well, no, so there are 60. They have 60 spots sold for elite VIP.
So that's another $16,000. Nice.
See, this is great. I love that I can see this.
Yeah, that's cool.
And just no numbers. Here's the downside though. They've encouraged people, because it's disc golf scene, people are putting their PDGA numbers in. All those people are going to have their bags with them at DGLO.
Somebody emailed us and said it was a scourge at Idlewild. People were just everywhere with their bags. All right, so just to follow up, DGPT Championship this year, it's a little, I shouldn't say it's a little different. It's totally different than we've seen in the past. Big changes, and we talked about this months ago, but let's just review. Top 32 MPO, and they've opened it up to 20 FPO players this year, up from 16. Now, keep in mind, Valerie Mondahano and Parker Welk have auto qualifier spots. So actually right now the cutoff is at 31 and 19 because they are not inside of the cutoff right now. But they won an Elite Series, so they are automatically in. This year, rather than doing their typical round 1 reset scores, round 2 reset scores, and players kind of joining the ranks as they go along, they are going to have all players competing immediately starting in round 1. And the benefit you get from finishing high in the standings is that you get starting strokes under par relative to the rest of the field. So if you're the top finisher, you get 6 strokes under par spotted to your score to begin round 1. And then it's 5 strokes for second place and on down from there with a kind of bins of scores down the way. They play 2 rounds of what they're calling the semifinals. Standard stroke play with those starting scores included. And then the top 12 MPO and top 8 FPO will advance to the finals, rounds 3 and 4. They reset the scores. Everybody starts at even par, and there are no other advantages given. So once you get to finals, flat. So they've opened up more players in these settings. I think there was a lot of complaint from fans, I think especially on the ground, that the best players weren't playing the first, day or two. And so now all of the top players are going to be competing from the jump. And this looks a lot more like what is used on the PGA Tour for the FedEx Cup.
The other noteworthy thing is like there was actually a lot of debate about whether or not having a bye was beneficial, because I think most of our winners, at least on MPO side, played every round, and it was very frequent that you would introduce the 4 or the 8 bye, like people who buyed all the way to semis, and one of them would make it through because, and then there was debate about whether or not it was beneficial to have like be warmed up on the course in tournament settings, and so this does feel like a very clear advantage for those first few rounds, and earning those higher payouts that I'm sure come with finals.
Do you like this new 2 rounds starting from even concept?
I do, with one caveat. I think the 2-round bundles are kind of odd. Like when I read it, I had to go back and read it again to like fully be like, okay, wait a minute. So they play, the strokes are combined for 2 rounds, and then it resets, and then it's combined again for 2 rounds. That part to me is a little bit odd, but I think that I prefer. I don't know. Do I prefer? I'm trying to think if like I prefer that the finals be 2 rounds instead of 1 round, or like 2 full rounds, or as opposed to 24 holes, or like a longer single round. I think I probably do. It's a little bit weird, but I am good with the reset scores. I don't want Calvin, for example, to come in with a 4-stroke lead because of his standings, and by the end of the first 2 rounds have a 12-stroke lead, and then just not even think about it for the last 2 rounds.
Right. It's like, it's good to have you create drama, and we've seen this with the past format, that there's crazy drama because everybody's starting with the same score in the final round.
And with the money on the line, like this tournament's got to have some drama. It is too close to too important of an event in USDGC that in order to stand out on its own, it has to combine like the entertainment factor and the drama that comes with a unique format with the just bagonzo bucks that they pay out. Yeah.
So Josh, let's take a look at the cutoff right now, because there is real actual drama about who's going to get in or not. The last player in right now is Nico Locastro. He's got 358 Disc Golf Pro Tour points. On the outside looking in, Garrett Gerthy, Paul Ulibarri. Paul moving up big. I mean, if he has another nice weekend, he's going to get in. Robert Burridge, Eric Oakley, Brody Smith, Jakub Semerad, Chandler Kramer, Andrew Marweed, Una Heinonen, Kevin Kiefer, Matt Bell. A lot of good players, Josh.
Yeah, there are. And like you talked about with Yuli and Double G, they are within 15 points of Nico. Garrett's only 4 points behind Nico. But really down to Brody Smith, Brody Smith's still within just about 50. And so a swing of 50 points at 2 events that are worth 1.5 times normal payout of points. Definitely possible to make that jump. We're talking like top 20 performances from anybody is going to secure you close to 50 points. And that's, I mean, that's gonna.
There's a lot of,
it's gonna jump you out.
Yeah, there's a lot of players, who are at risk. I mean, I think Mason Ford at 405 points, Joel Freeman, Vino Makala, Andrew Presnell, Chris Clemens, and Nico, of course, all certainly at risk, and even some players above them theoretically could be in danger. But keep in mind, Emerson Keith at 25th with 409 points has an auto spot no matter what. So,
yeah.
How about FPO, Josh?
Yeah, over in FPO, again, names looking in that are good players. Henna Blomroos is the first one out. Rebecca Cox is in the final spot right now. It's noteworthy, though, that they are separated by 0.08 points. So very, very tight right there. After that, going down of who's outside, Lisa Fakis, Hannah Wynn, Heidi Lena, Holland Finley, Juliana Korver, Evelina Salonen notably is down at the 31 position, but these are even tighter than the MPO side. Those scores a little bit more condensed. The problem though is like a lot of them, I would say half of the first 10 out, not quite half, 4 or 5, maybe 5, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Half of them are Europeans who are not coming back for DGLO because they're playing in the European Championship right now.
Right.
We'll talk a little bit more about that. And so that hurts the FPO, those FPO players on their ability to get in. But those who are still in, Rebecca Cox, as I mentioned, is last in. Sayananda, a couple points ahead of her. Paige Pierce is near the bottom, and with her not playing, is I would expect to drop off. Stacey Ronsley, and that's Allie Smith. Maybe you get up to the Jen Allen mark. She's almost 50 points ahead of Rebecca Cox. So maybe Jen Allen, but she's playing in all of these events as well. So that's those others seem like the most likely candidates to be at risk.
Pretty interesting. And it really comes down to like if you show up and you play well at these next 2 DGPT events, you're probably in as long as you're within, the top 30 or so. So keep an eye on that this weekend. I'm sure that we'll get some notes on the broadcast about how players are doing and what their points would be if the tournament ended today, that kind of stuff. So it should be fun to follow along. So that is the format for the upcoming Pro Tour events. Of course, we have Worlds right around the corner. That's also worth 1.5x points. Should be worth double. Just saying.
Should.
And then, of course, U.S. Women's and then U.S. DGC also coming up. So still opportunities to earn points. Although I think U.S. DGC is not included for the purposes of the Pro Tour Championship, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right about that.
And yeah, it shows MVP Open as the last event before the Tour Championship on UDisc right now. So that is correct. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk DGLO, make our picks, and break down something very interesting: alternate pin placements. Stay with us.
Pound's the best of the best. It's the quality, the craftsmanship, the vision for what a bag could be. Let's start from the beginning. I didn't choose Pound, I chose Levi. I trusted Levi to make the best bag possible.
He's always trying to innovate. He wants it to be perfect. And I think he's the kind of guy that nothing's ever perfect.
I trust the product. I trust the people behind the product.
At this point, I don't think anyone's disputing that it's the best made bag.
Welcome back to the Upshot. The Discraft Great Lakes Open kicks off the Pro Tour playoffs this weekend. 4 rounds this year at the Toboggan in Milford, Michigan, about 15 minutes away from Discraft's headquarters. And Josh, this is always one of the top spectated events of the year. Mentioned in the earlier segment, $100,000 expected in terms of ticket sales. And so, as wide open as a course as this is, there's so much opportunity to just jam fans in here. And Michigan has got to be one of the best states in the country in terms of disc golf.
The other part you got to add to that as well is the elevation of the toboggan course makes it so that you can see the full flight of the disc. It's really a cool spectacle when you have spectators going up a hill that the players are throwing directly into. It's almost like natural bleachers. And so it's one that people really do love to go spectate here because we often hear positive feedback of how well everybody is able to see the shots themselves, which is a complaint that you see at some other courses. So that's no surprise to me that this one is so immensely popular for the spectator side.
Calvin Heimberg and Natalie Ryan are your defending champions. Natalie will be playing this weekend. This is part of the United Series. Michigan, with a little bit more of a blue state vibe, does have protections around transgender class. And so they are going to be allowing Natalie to compete this weekend, which is certainly something to keep an eye on, as this is, one of the tournaments where she's really excelled in the past. And especially with Paige and Kristen out, she has to be considered among the players who are favorites to win this year.
It's a course that does advantage the power throwers, and we've seen that in the past. And like you said, just especially you consider as well Katrina not really playing up to form right now, and that list starts to become very thin of who is considered locks for even podium positions. And at this point, it feels like it could be lots of different players' games for this weekend, and Natalie is definitely among that list.
So I think the most interesting thing, Josh, about this year's DGLO is that we are going to see, it can feel monotonous to watch the same course 4 rounds in a row.
Mm-hmm.
But on 3 MPO holes and 2 FPO holes, they are going to have alternate pin locations. So for rounds 1 and 4, they will play the B position, and rounds 2 and 3, they will play the A position. Why they made A, not hole 1, round 1, I don't know. But whatever. This is my dream. Now, I would love to see this come to every hole on the course, or the vast majority of holes on the course. But I will take this as a starting point. So I want to actually take a look. If you're watching on YouTube, you can take a look at a couple of the holes with us. Holes 1 and 2 both have these alternate pin positions. So let's take a look at hole 1. Josh, what do you think of how they're kind of mixing it up here on hole 1? The A position kind of tight to the left side OB with the very edge of the left side of the circle out of bounds, and the B position tucked over towards the tree on the right-hand side, a little bit of a safer overall position, kind of out more in the middle.
I do appreciate that they make it a little bit. There is a little bit more danger here. I think it does slightly alter the shot, because overturning it is, in the past, if you overturn it a little bit, your edge of circle sometimes obstructed by the tree, right? Like that's the punishment that you get if you overturn it a little too much, but still throw a good shot, is that you're circle's edge but possibly obstructed by the tree. In this one, that's going to take you well outside of circle 2 is if you overturn it, and there isn't really that creates an issue. But at the end of the day, like, this shot is fundamentally the same, right? The danger changes a little bit, but and this is something I feel I'm going to repeat a lot. It is very similar in terms of the shot you're going to see players throw. I would imagine the ideal landing spot for both of those is actually where the circle ones intersect, kind of in between the two of them, and that's where you would love to land in both rounds.
So the hole number 2 also has alternate locations. The B position is the same as last year, but the A position is about 50 feet shorter. So that is how that will play. The actual shape here is identical. They just extend the pin further back, or bring it further closer, I should say, for the rounds 2 and 3.
Yeah, I wish I'm going to be interested to see if it can, it may change scoring a little bit, but unless it brings Eagle into question for either division, and it might. I mean, it's a par 4 that now for the FPO would only be 376 feet, but it's uphill. I mean, it gains 76 feet of elevation. No, there's no way. So MPO are still 630 feet with gaining 76 feet of elevation. Like, man, I wish it was a little bit closer so the Eagle was in question, or some sort of change there that could fundamentally change the decision that you make on this hole.
And then we look at how it plays on 11. This is the other hole where they have alternate pin locations. So it's par 3, 512 feet last year for MPO, 442 for FPO, and they're playing the short pin position for MPO in 2 of the rounds, and then they're playing the long position, last year's position, for 2 of the rounds. So once again, they're kind of just shortening it up for two of the rounds. there's not a lot of creativity here, I think would be my complaint about how these alternate pin positions are being used. And maybe that's because like basket, it's easier to kind of just put it in the FPO location and just they played that. But I would like to see them actually move, like let's say on 11, right? Move it way out over behind the trees on the left or something. And I don't have the layout in my mind. I've never been to toboggan, so it may be logistically challenging because there's another fairway or something. But I would like to see them actually try to alter the shot required, because in golf, when you change the pin location, a lot of times that's what happens, is that the approach to the green is totally different. If you're just asking people to throw a little further, that doesn't really change the hole that much.
The only, and like I kind of mentioned, my only exception to that would be if you bring eagle into play on some par fours and you have a hole that has some real danger, that if you bring it up a little bit, a 2 is in question.
Attackable.
Do you want to attack it for that 2? That becomes very intriguing to me. And heck, if you do that, like bring it closer and add some OB for that round. Right? If it's the middle 2 rounds, bring it closer, make it attackable for eagle, but put some OB closer behind the basket. So if you mess up, it's you're taking extra strokes. Like that would be, I think, another way that you could consider just shortening it, but adding a little bit of creativity based on the OB. Make an island of some kind, or I think there are options that you can do, even if you have limited space, to change the hole. And maybe players would complain about the artificial OB or an artificial Mando, but I will say at the end of the day, I am very grateful that there are some holes and that this is a concept that is being used, because I would love to see. I wish 3-day tournaments would use this on single courses.
I think it's an obvious change for the future tour events, where we start to have some more alterations to holes. With alternate pin locations on select holes. And I agree with you. I'm glad they're doing it, and let's see how it plays out. I could be proven wrong. It could be much more interesting than I expect. So we'll find out. There are a lot of other changes to the course. Hole 3 gets tighter OB. They've taken away the drop zone. There's OB along the right-hand side on hole 7 now. Holes 8 and 14 have a lot more OB. Hole 14 will have the FPO playing from the MPO tee pad to a different basket. They shortened up hole 9 a little bit. Hole 16 is an island green this year and has a drop zone for any tee shots that not land inside the island. And hole 18 has been fully redesigned from a par 3 into a much longer par 4, and there's OB everywhere. 18 is, people are saying in the practice rounds, it's a beast.
I'm excited about this hole 18 change for the MPO side. I really think that it's like hole 18 was good for the MPO, but I'm very excited to have this par 4 that stretches it out and forces another good shot. It's gonna be interesting to watch. I'm excited about this one.
So yeah, last year was par 3, 315 feet. And now it's a par 4, 660 feet. So they like doubled the size of the hole and added 1 stroke to par. So yeah, it should be fun. It's a big uphill first shot, and then you're trying to attack. I mean, like judging, it's kind of hard to tell without specific landing zone distances being listed, but I have to think you're basically throwing, 350-ish uphill to the landing zone. And then you've got to throw another 300 feet through the trees and avoid OB to get into a position to putt. And like the green is pretty tight. So it's going to be tough birdie. That's for sure.
Looks like it.
Certainly no eagle opportunity, I wouldn't think. Maybe Double G will prove me wrong.
That would be an incredible eagle.
I don't think it's possible, but
I don't see it.
We will see. So, other notes on this tournament. Could be a little rainy day 1, but it should be beautiful the next couple of days. And Bert Kreischer is going to be making an appearance. He's the comedian, podcaster. He's been, he's like on Joe Rogan talking about disc golf. He's going to be at DGLO and doing like a charity fundraiser for the Paul Macbeth Foundation. And they have like the Burt zone is the VIP zone. So he's going to be like schmoozing it up, I guess. I know like nothing about this guy, but he's been like one of the big celebrity boosters of disc golf.
Yeah. I know a coworker of mine went to a comedy show of his, and I guess somewhere disc golf was mentioned. So it's cool. That's cool that he's coming. I'm kind of with you though, Charlie. Not really my cup of tea via Visa Entertainment.
But I mentioned earlier, Manabu Kajiyama is going to be competing this weekend as he gets ready for Worlds. 1056 rated, highest rated player, highest rated active PDGA member in the world. Of course, we know that's inflated, but it's pretty cool. We're hoping to have Manabu on the podcast very soon. So looking forward to talking with him when we get the chance sometime in the lead up to Worlds. And hey, let's see how he stacks up. Best player in Japan. It's pretty cool.
Charlie, I'm going to give you over under with Manabu Kajiyama here.
Great.
This number is so hard to set. Over under 25.5 final placement spot for Manabu.
Oh. There's 75 players.
Yeah.
But they're like every single one of them is good. I'm gonna roll with the guy. I'm gonna take the over. I'm gonna take the under.
The under. He'll finish better than.
Better than.
Okay. All right. 25 or better is what you get.
That's what I'm taking.
Okay. All right. I like it. I hope he does. That'd be so cool.
That'd be fun. All right, Josh, it's time to make our picks. So let's dive in. I'll let you go first this week. You pick your division and go.
All right. Let's start with the FPO because this one was the most brain-racking picks to make.
Before you make your picks, I just want to note some notable absences.
This is important.
We already know Kristen Tatar not here. Paige Pierce out with the injury. Basically, all the Europeans not here. Mm-hmm. They're all playing over in Europe still. Paul Macbeth is also still out, so he is not competing. Those are the biggest, most notable absences that you might be thinking about for picks.
Okay. So with that said, in my 3 spot, I've got Owen Scoggins, who is just our podium lock now up here on the Upshot. It feels like you're giving away points if you don't put Owen on the podium. This one does not feel like a tournament that Owen is going to win, right? There are some tournaments I go into, I'm like, okay, Owen could win this one. This tournament does not feel like that to me. Now, I still expect her to find her way onto the podium because she always does. But it feels like one of those where she's probably going to be well out of contention when she does make the podium. In my 2 spot, I've got Missy Gannon. Missy, she talked about in her interview that she's throwing further than ever, and it's hard to notice sometimes, but she doesn't feel like distance is a hindrance. And overall, her performance this season would confirm to me that that's the case. She is just playing so well, especially in the past couple of weeks, and really demonstrating that she is a serious threat week in and week out. And especially given some of the names who are missing, Paige and Kristen, and some of the names of players who aren't playing very well right now, Katrina Allen, I think Missy is another one that I have to include on my podium. I'm going to run it back, though, for my winner. Holland Hanley, I'm picking her to win it again. I got the point for the podium last week, and this course sets up even more favorably for her. She finished well here last year, and I really think that she could do it. She could do it. She was 10th last year, so she was 9 down. Winning score was 18 down. It was, which round was it? Her round 2 was only a 2 under, and that was pretty slow. But I've got the sense, man. I think Colin Hanley's going to get it done this week. I'm going to do it again.
Missy and Owen, love the picks. Holland winning. I cannot get there. I cannot get there yet. I'm sorry.
So help me. If Ella wins instead of Holland, I'm gonna lose my mind.
By the way, I feel like you were slandering our dog of the century, Owen Scoggins, a little bit. She was only 2 shots off the win last year. In fact,
right.
she was 2 shots ahead of Paige Pierce. So I don't want to hear any.
All right.
Owen isn't going to be able to throw it for enough. Blah blah blah.
I'll take it back.
She's done too well for too long to catch those strays. I have Owen on my podium as well in the 3 spot. And my 2 spot, I'm going with Haley King.
Ooh, okay, look good.
Haley,
Yeah.
you forget because she doesn't play every week. So you don't know, but she's playing. And listen, I think she could win. I mean, especially with the players who are missing. I mean, she could absolutely win. But I'm going to go with the back-to-back Valerie Mondahano pick here.
Ooh.
Back in form. Absolutely has the skills to win at this course. She was 4th here last year, 4 shots off the eventual winner. And I just think that this is the time for her to accelerate. And I crave the storyline of Valerie being red hot going into Worlds.
I love that.
That would be fantastic because she does feel like a credible threat to Kristen Tatar and would add one more name to the mix because I don't think we were considering her as somebody who you could possibly consider winning Worlds even before last weekend, right?
Yeah.
So if she goes back to back, now we're talking.
Absolutely.
On the MPO side, I'm just going straight ballers because we got 4 rounds. The action is heating up. Worlds is coming up. I'm going Eagle in the 3 spot, Ricky in the 2 spot, and it's time for Calvin to shut everybody up and get another win. He won it here last year. I'm going for Calvin back-to-back at DGLO. I've got Vinny winning it all.
Okay. I also put some just top baller names on the MPO side, but I'm going to go with a little bit older history. I got Kyle Klein in the 3 spot. I think he's going to come back. I mean, he's playing in his home state, and we've seen him play well here against Eagle in the past. 2 spot, I've got Vinny, lock on the podium, but I don't know, man. I don't know if it's going to be any different because I think there's going to be a guy who just gets red hot. Eagle McMahon. He's won here twice, won in 2020 and in 2021, plays well here. And I really like Eagle to, again, storylines of people getting hot right before Worlds. I think Eagle is one that could really introduce his name into the mix if he wins this weekend.
Yeah, wow. It's going to be interesting. But, you look at the last 5 years, Calvin, Eagle, Paul, Natalie, Kristen, Paige, Hokum. So definitely a chance to get some new winners this year, but lots of people in the mix who could also get that repeat. So we will see what happens. It all starts tomorrow morning with the FPO rounds. That is going to do it for this edition of the Upshot. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back with you on Tuesday. And of course, if you are an UltiWorld Disc Golf subscriber, and you can become one at discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe, we will break down DGLO in our Rapid Reacts segment Inside the Circle on Sunday evening. So we will see you in the Discord then. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long. We'll talk to you next week right here on The Upshot.